Every human being is musical in some way. We all have rhythm in our body. Our heartbeat, our breathing is all rhythmic, our movement. So I encourage people to engage however they're comfortable. And you don't have to be a quote unquote musician or have a musical background to participate and engage.
Tips from Trestle is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale, Wiseox AI, and Benny Keith Food Service. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality Podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Welcome to Tips from Trestle. Today, I am excited to be talking with Alexis Baker. Alexis is a board-certified music therapist, certified dementia practitioner, and founder of Bridgetown Music Therapy. Her passion is all about using music to improve senior living residents' quality of life. Her mission as a music therapist is to spark joy and connection for older adults living with dementia through meaningful music engagement. In 2020, Alexis became the innovator of Singing at Home and Music with Alexis, virtual music engagement programs for older adults living with dementia. Alexis, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Oh, thank you so much, Erin. I'm really glad to be with you today.
One of the things that I know very little about, but I see it all the time when I'm in communities, is music therapy. So when we got the chance to connect and talk, I got excited to let you tell us about that. So let's just start at the beginning. Explain to the listeners what exactly music therapy is and how it's different than, just pulling up your Spotify playlist.
Well, that's a great question to start off with today. A lot of people have that question, and one that I get all the time. And if we look at simply listening to music, for example, that's just hit and play on your Spotify or YouTube. It's very preferential. It's very focused on, oh, I feel like listening to music, so I'm going to turn it on. Not everyone has that luxury. If you're a resident in a senior living community, it might be more difficult to access music to listen to. So that's one area where staff can help out. And then more specifically, music therapists can help out. And music therapy is an organized profession. It's part of healthcare overall, and it is evidence-based. There's a lot of research around it, and it's also both an art and science. It is also using the creative arts as a therapy. So, for example, dance and movement therapy, art therapy, and we are trained similarly to physical therapists, speech and language pathologists, where we're going in and whether we're working with an individual or a group of clients, we're going in and assessing what their greatest needs are and then creating a treatment plan. So goals and objectives that can address those areas, whether it's increasing their communication abilities, physical movement, things like that. And then implementing the treatment, the music-based activities to address those areas, and then completing documentation and just evaluation along the way. So it is a very organized field in that sense.
When I see people doing it, my untrained eye goes to, oh, well, hey, that's great that they brought somebody in to play the guitar or somebody's playing the piano and entertaining, but it's definitely deeper than that. And I think about my visits to memory care neighborhoods where I see music being used to make connections and spark memories and spark interaction with those residents. And so
I'm curious when we talk about it being a science based approach, what does the research tell us about how music affects the brain and especially around people with dementia?
Well, the research is very exciting. There's more and more of it coming out, and I I like to say music therapists have known all along what the research is starting to show, and that is that the benefits of music are abundant and far-reaching. They affect all of a person's domains of functioning, so at physiological, brain level, emotional, mental, physical, social, all those different areas. But with dementia specifically, music can tap into memories that seem to be lost. Like they can really bring up memories that we thought weren't there anymore, but it's the power of music. And sometimes it just seems so magical or unexplainable. And then music can do things like help establish new neural pathways and tap into the feel good center of the brain. So affect mood and emotions and reduce anxiety and stress and all kinds of benefits.
Yeah, I think about when I hear a song from when I was in high school, which was a long time ago. I know the words. I recognize the song. Like I can immediately jump right back in and sing along with it, even though it's been years maybe since I've heard that. And so when we think about how that kind of anecdotally has an impact on us, but when we think about those with dementia, what's the specific reason?
Well, dementia is often a progressive condition. It's often degenerative. So a person is losing many abilities as their brain physically starts to break down. They lose a lot of different abilities. They lose sense of self. They can change as a person. A lot of behavioral issues, changes in personality. So there's a lot that goes on with dementia. It's a very complex condition. And then there's dozens of different types of dementia. A lot of dementia care professionals will say, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia. So with that, with all those things going on, their world becomes smaller. They retreat inward. They disengage with the people around them. And music can really reach deep within and draw them back out. It can be bring joy and connection. It can help them connect with the people around them, their loved ones. It can help them, like I mentioned earlier, tap into past memories that just brings them back to life and it brings the personhood back to them.
Do you find with your experience, you're a board certified musical therapist, but you're also a certified dementia practitioner. And so, do you find that there's a lot of overlap in the way you approach it? Or does that give you this unique way of looking at how we should interact and create that whole life experience inside of a community for residents?
So there is a lot of overlap with my training as a music therapist. We receive a 4-year degree in music therapy plus 1,200 clinical training hours. So that's our background. And a lot of my experience with people living with dementia came from that training. And then a lot of building up to getting the certified dementia practitioner came from that experience. And then it was just taking the step to get the training. And it really does inform my approach to providing music therapy and music-based services to residents in senior living.
When you look back on all of the work you've done with senior living, the way you've developed the programs, maybe share a story with our listeners as to how your experience with music therapy positively impacted someone that you were working with.
One of my favorite applications of music therapy or examples of how it can impact a person is helping them find their voice. and helping them experience joy. So that's one thing I really focus on in music therapy. And then the connection piece as well. So, an example, there was an older gentleman with very advanced Alzheimer's, and he had pretty much lost his ability to carry on conversation and speak clearly. It was a lot of word salad and just not really making sense. But he surprised me one day when I think it was around Christmas time, and I brought in some Christmas carols, and he just started belting out a song in the most beautiful voice. You could tell he was really expressing himself. And that's the beauty of music therapy is it provides opportunities for resident experiences like that, or residents connecting with each other, connecting with staff members, connecting with their loved ones through music. Music being the space and the container for that to happen.
So growing up, I was very musical. I sang in the choir. I played the saxophone. I literally just this past week purchased a saxophone to get back into it. But being that musical person, it's always fascinated me. Like, how do you even go about doing it? Like, what are the tools that you use for music therapy, and how do you go about actually like executing the work? So I'd love for you to tell me and the listeners a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of how you go about doing what you do.
That's a great question, Aaron. And I'm going to start off by saying every human being is musical in some way. So a lot of people, they either consider themselves a musician or not, but every person resonates with music one way or another. We all have rhythm in our body, our heartbeat, our breathing is all rhythmic, our movement. So I encourage people to engage however they're comfortable. And you don't have to be a quote unquote musician or have a musical background to participate and engage. For me, as a music therapist, I've been trained in several different instruments. Guitar, piano, voice, and percussion were all required to be proficient in with my degree. But I really focused in on voice and guitar. Guitar is a very portable
Yeah.
instrument. So it just, it works well in the therapeutic setting of going site to site. So those are my main instruments I use, but I do incorporate other instruments, and I've done this whole instrument exploration theme. So with the virtual program, if they happen to have instruments on their end, to go grab them, and I often say like small percussive type instruments work well, maracas, tambourines,
Yeah.
egg shakers. I encourage them to play because then they're getting physical movement. They're really engaging with the music. So I focus in on several different types of music-based activities, and that is singing, movement to music, rhythm. And I always end sessions with deep breathing and relaxation just to really bring participants to a calm, centered point mentally, physically. So as far as the domains of functioning or the dimensions of wellness, they're often called in senior living, it's the physical, social, cognitive or mental stimulation and emotional. And then we also touch on the spiritual dimension. Sometimes we have like a whole hymns and spirituals collection of music. And yeah, the opportunities are endless.
So, Alexis, when you think about all those different elements of wellness, you talk a lot about the instruments and the playing and rhythm and all of that. In the broader scope, how else can you incorporate other aspects of wellness into music therapy to kind of create that whole experience around it?
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of e-menu choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing, and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, e-menu choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction. E-menu choice, transforming dining for senior living.
Yeah, great question. One example that comes to mind is the physical dimension of wellness. And I do that through our program by incorporating a short segment, oftentimes called movement moment. And it's where I guide participants through oftentimes seated movement. So using the body to create rhythm and just some gentle stretching and getting the blood flowing, getting the muscles and joints moving. And we're starting to focus on that more with a special collection we're releasing soon, a movement moments collection, and it will be one of about 10 different collections we offer within our program.
I just think of all the different ways that you can engage musically with listening or engaging, playing, moving, and just there's a lot there. And so for me, the idea of being able to put together a program and have research behind it and know that it's going to have an impact, it's a fascinating experience.
Right, and music therapy is more than just music entertainment. It brings its own value to the senior living setting, but music therapy is very intentional and very much focused on engaging the client or participants in the music and not having it just be a sit back, receptive type experience, but an actively engaged experience.
When we were prepping for this, one of the things that you shared was a similar story around that. And it's informed a little bit about how your business has evolved. I mentioned in the opening, you've got a couple of different music engagement programs that you have developed. And it kind of came out of, 2020, the pandemic, all of that crazy stuff. And so how did all of that come about? Because I'm guessing prior to developing all of this, you were probably more of that traditional music therapist, like I would see in communities that was there in communities actually doing the work. And so how did you pivot your business and develop the programs that you did?
Right. I tell people I have my pre-COVID business and my post-COVID business. So just as a backdrop, pre-COVID, my model was the Portland metro area. I was always a traveling music therapist. I would drive around to all of my client sites. I had about 24 contracts with care communities and individuals, care homes, clients like that in the area, and I would drive around to all of them. And then COVID happened and I wasn't able to go in person anymore. So all of my clients actually canceled service in the span of a week. And so my business was suddenly down to zero. And I really was forced to come up with an alternative to providing service because I really had no other option. And it was actually my husband's idea. He's a professional videographer. And he said, "Hey, why don't I start filming you? And we'll create these like pre-recorded sessions that people can access anytime and just watch as many times as they want." So we did that. We launched this program in fall of 2020 with 4 videos, and we had no idea what we were doing, but we just kept going. We launched it to my clients. Many of them started using it and giving us positive feedback. So we just kept going, creating more content. And now we have a video library built up of over 300 therapeutic music session. So I really have taken my business in a new direction, and I really see it as using my knowledge, skills, and experience to provide an alternative to formal music therapy while still relying on the research and evidence-based, it's very intentional and thoughtful in the way I've put it together. And it really is tailored to people living with dementia because I took my experience working with them in person and really, as best as possible, put that in video format.
Okay. When you think about the field of music therapy, how do you see that evolving? I literally saw a tweet this morning where the number of seniors that are going to be living with dementia by 2050 is going to basically double. And that's, it sounds like it's a long ways away, but that's 25 years from now, unfortunately. So when you think about how music therapy is going to engage with those individuals, what are things that you see happening in the field of music therapy?
Well, I think music therapy is such a valuable tool within dementia care or music-based programs. It doesn't have to be formal music therapy. It's such a valuable tool that it can't be ignored. So we need to come up with some solutions if we're going to be able to use music effectively in dementia care. So one thing a lot of people don't know is there aren't enough music therapists to go around to serve all the needs. There's only 10,000 music therapists in the US. We're a very small profession of people. It's tough to get the degree. It's hard work. It's taxing on your body. It's low pay. So, and not all music therapists work in senior care or dementia care. A lot of them focus on the younger populations or mental health, middle-aged adults. So I really see part of my role as a music therapist is helping to contribute an alternative to formal music therapy, either until there are more music therapists or music-based solutions. We also see a big shift to music and tech. So the whole age tech industry is exploding right now. And there are some really cool things happening with music within that, even with artificial intelligence. But there's a lot happening and it's exciting to see. But there can always be more of it as well.
Alexis, this has been a fascinating conversation. Like I said, being a musical person, this is fascinating to me that there's something more than just, hey, I showed up and played the piano or the guitar for residents, and it has a deep impact on those that we're serving. So as we close out here, will you let the listeners know how they can connect with you online or social media and learn more about your programs for at home or for senior living communities?
I would be glad to. So our website is the best place for people to reach us and learn more. It is Bridgetown, spelled how it sounds, Bridgetown, M as in Mary, T as in Tom, .com, bridgetownt.com. And there's a contact us tab on there. Can send me an email or give me a call, and we'd love to hear from you if you have questions or just want to learn more.
Perfect. Well, like I said, thanks again so much for joining me today, Alexis, here on Tips from Trestle.
Thank you for having me.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestlehospitalityconcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.